Welcome to another See You Next, well, who knows when podcast now. Today, Ed001, 025 and myself, 666, will be discussing cake recipes and crochet, as there's no football to talk about. So, how you doing, lads?
I'm good, thanks.
I'm getting worried. I don't want to share my cake making secrets with you.
In your waist, mate. You've got plenty of those recipes you've got. Oh my God. So this is the most bonkers life situation most of us have ever faced. Apart from you, Billy, because you lived through World War One.
It was World War Two.
And to me, this is just normal, sitting at home all day. What's the difference?
Hey, Billy, how does this compare to 1919, mate?
Yeah, this is harder. Because we had trenches then. So it was okay.
You didn't have Netflix those days.
Thank God.
You still haven't got it.
I don't know how you can take the pee out of him for technical stuff when it took you an hour to log into Discord to record this.
That's your fault. You didn't
It's
have the
not
volume.
my fault. It was your fault. You didn't even know which bloody button to
Everything's
click
your
on.
fault. If we don't win the league, it's your fault.
No, it's definitely your fault. I told you you're a Jonah booking the tickets to go watch the final game and that.
Oh my God, this is the second year in a row that I've got tickets for the last game of the season and booked hotels in Liverpool. And it's the second season in a row something's happened.
I told you.
Never do it
Everybody
again.
said I was
Never.
wrong, but I'm telling you, it's your fault.
You are.
Jonah.
Don't give my phone number out, whatever you do.
I was going to give you an address out. But no one could go round and deal with you anyway, can they, at the moment?
So no football till April the 30th at the very least. What happens next is anybody's guess, eh?
It won't be April, though. It's got no chance of being April. I think you're looking at least June, maybe July.
Oh, cheers, Billy. You're the other voice of, the cheery voice, aren't you?
Angel of Doom over there. Angel of Doom.
I'm still open for the cancellation, and I'll start again. Back.
Oh, you must have been chilling in the trenches. Billy, I agree with you, mate. There's no chance. April the 30th, that's what? That's a month away.
It depends. I mean, it depends, because they could play behind, if they do the behind closed doors, there's talk of doing, because obviously the government wants to keep morale up. So there's a chance that it could end up being a behind closed doors for every single sport.
But how can it be behind closed doors if we're meant to be practicing social distancing? We'll just do what Man United.
I was going to say, Everton have been doing social distancing all season.
Yeah,
Didn't you watch them against us? They didn't get within yards of any of our players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fred's the world champion at that.
But yeah, so I mean, I just don't see it happening because they can't just make a mitigation for Liverpool for Freudian slip there. For
they should do. I don't see a problem with them making a special dispensation just for Liverpool. I've got no problem with that.
I mean, you can't just have Premier League footballers not abiding by social rules and norms. I mean, that's their health.
That's right. Yeah, you're totally right.
It depends on how they do it. I mean, if they travelled in isolation in like just a team bus, and they've all been tested regularly and all that, I mean, there are ways around it. You know what I mean? If they're kept in complete isolation away from like everyone else for the week, in between games and that. Take them into like a training camp. Yeah.
Everton's defence this year about practiced isolation.
Yeah.
They never get near each other.
Oh, but I mean, if they could put them in training camps for the the entirety of the end of the league, and so they don't go home, they don't. But like, it seems a bit harsh on them. Like,
that's so Victorian. It's unbelievable.
Well,
you just can't. You can't just isolate them like that and just make them like that. That's just wrong. I mean,
Hey,
at the end
look,
of
if
the
we
day,
win the
all right.
league because of that, I'm happy with them doing whatever they have to do. Lock them away for life if need be. I don't care.
I tell you what, they wanted a winter break. They've got one, haven't they?
Yeah. See, that's the
Absolutely.
problem. That's what caused all this.
I honestly believe it's like two mad scientists that support Man United and Man City, and they got together in a frigging laboratory.
They didn't never.
Created this.
Let's be honest. Anyone relate, part of Man United at the moment would never have got it right.
It's just, who would have envisaged anything like this? I mean, we were 25 points clear. We're having the most dominating season ever. I mean, it just beggars belief.
It really does.
I did
I mean,
say,
this was meant to
everyone
be-
said, what could stop us? Everyone said it. What could stop? Why are you moaning? I told you something. It could still stop. They could find a way. You didn't listen to me. I told you.
This is the only juncture in life I'm going to say I agree, I concur with you, because, I mean, come on. Who would friggin' foresee a pandemic? I mean...
Nostradamus
Lord
did.
works a mysterious, and he's an Evertonian, I think.
Nostradamus foresaw it 1,000 years ago. What are you talking about? Everyone knew it was coming.
Unbelievable. What must Klopp must be thinking? I mean, I'm just sitting there just shaking his head probably.
At the end of the day, what can he do? Either anyone do. We just have to get on with it, don't we? Even if we are all bored to tears.
So seriously speaking, the notion is, the directive is that they want to finish the season, correct? I mean,
Yes.
no matter how long it takes.
Yeah, everyone
The
wants
Euros
to
have
finish the season.
So the Euros have been cancelled, right?
Yep.
So we've got enough time to go into... See, there's so many permutations now, and juicy permutations, because what happens with transfers? What happens with people that are out of contract?
Well,
what happens
the
with...
plan is with the contracts and that is they're looking at, and this is what they're going to ask players, they're talking about doing, is asking players to sign like a month-by-month contract until this is all resolved. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with that. Any of the players, are they, at this point?
No.
Just to see everyone through and then resolve it afterwards, after the season's done. But that's if they can finish the season.
They will finish the season. Even if it's next year, they'll finish the season.
I'm not
When do they
convinced, Bill.
start the following season? When will they start the next season then?
They
Exactly.
might cancel the next season, but they've got to finish this one, whatever happens. They've got to finish this
I
season.
wouldn't put money on that, Bill.
I think they've got to, Tris.
I hope you're right, obviously, but I think it'll end up being null and void and just forgotten about. A footnote in history.
I will not turn my phone on for 6 years if that's the case. The friggin' WhatsApp messages I'm going to get, you have no idea. That'd be I can't even imagine.
Oh, well, in that case, I'd be happy for that if it had been I get peace from you on my bloody phone. 6 years of peace, bring it on.
I would be. For me, I'd be acceptable if we finish this season, and we don't have. My dog's just walked in. Yes, me. Oh, buddy.
It's not really difficult for you. You can't cope with two things at once, can you? Your dog walks in and you completely lose your train of thought.
Okay. Yeah. So I would be happy with what if they finish the season this season and didn't have a following season, because we win the league then. No, I think that makes sense. I think if they somehow finish this season, whether they play 2 matches a week or whatever, and then if it has...
Can you imagine a player complaining about playing 2 games a week, right now, when you see what the health workers and that are going through?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It pales into insignificance, doesn't it? Yeah, really. Yeah. There's going to be... You're right. Yeah, you're right. I think that's, Billy, I agree. I hope they do that, to be honest with you. If it means just somehow finishing this season, and then maybe we cancel all next season and start again the season after.
I think they'd have to, I think that's the way it's got to be. You can't just throw a season away, and especially people have had. I'm gutted for you. I really am.
Stop laughing.
I've got to laugh, but I am gutted for you.
Yeah, right.
My preference would be for them just to give it to Liverpool, and then it'll always be tainted, and we can give you a bit of stick then.
What would be... They can't, because what would happen? If they null and voided this season, so everything will be the same, like next season, correct? There'll be no relegation, no promotion, no winners, no losers kind of thing. So,
well, there's loads of different options on the table. There's the promotion but no relegation option. The issue is, if they go into next season and they haven't finished this season, is sorting out like European qualifiers and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because how do you decide who plays in Europe?
You know what, Tristan? You know what? Thinking about it, Billy, it's easier to... Not that I want this to happen, but it's easier to null and void this season.
Do you think so?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because there's...
And what you do with... What about the relegated teams? What about the teams coming up? I think you're opening a can of worms.
Yeah, what about the European qualifiers? Who'd you throw into Europe if you null and void it?
Who are there now? You'd have to put the ones who are there now in.
You have the same problems if you don't null and void it, because it's if you don't finish the season.
No, but the point is, you've got. That's why I'm thinking the best thing all round for everyone would be if, whenever it can be done, they just finish the season and then sort out maybe starting the next season. If the next season's going to be late, rather, or if they can't manage to get in the next season, they start the following season earlier than usual, so they can get going and have a bit more of a break and that, whatever. But
the other issue is that the Euros will be in next season, so they've got to finish it before July.
I think they've still got a massive window. We're talking March now, 21st of March, 22nd of March, sorry. You've still got, I reckon, up until August to get these games in. And I think they'll do it. I don't think the pandemic's going to last. I know it's going to still carry on after 12 weeks, 14 weeks, 20 weeks, and it's not going to actually clear up for maybe 18 months. But I think it'll come to the stage where all things will calm down after a good while, and I think we'll go back to football.
I understand where you're coming from, but they think this pandemic hasn't even reached its crescendo yet. We're at least 2 months away from 6 to 8 weeks away from the real, like the hotspots. So I just don't see what's. Obviously, as Tristan says, nobody can foresee what's going to happen, but I just don't see where they're going to fit this season in. Unless they do behind closed doors, etc., etc. But maybe that's the way forward.
Nope. Your microwave's finished, whatever it was you were cooking.
Is that your pacemaker, Billy?
No, it's my phone. Someone's sending me a message.
Oh, that'll be why we've never heard it before in all these hours of doing the pods then, because nobody's ever messaged you before.
I've only got 2 friends.
Yeah, and we're both doing the pod with you.
So, yeah, they think that, as you say, we're March the 20th, May, June. Listen, there's 3 months as a season that's on the off season. So, we could do something then if it just calms down. I mean, they just have basic companies. They'll just have 2 or 3 weeks off in the summer when they've had, and that won't be bad because they've had a ton of time off now.
Yeah, but it's not the time off. They've got to get back of playing and training together. They can't just turn up and say, yeah, you're playing this week. They've got to have a mini pre-season to get up to speed.
What you mean for the following season? For now, when they come back?
For now, to finish this season, they're going to have to have a pre-season to get back to ways.
Well, they'll have to make do. They'll be keeping fit now. You know, they'll be doing their drills in their homes. And all
they all have individual training programs.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's impossible to keep match sharp. You know what I mean? Your touch will go and everything. Is it just me left? Have you two both gone? Yep, that's just me then. They will need definitely will need to have a pre-season, and I don't know where you two have gone and why you've gone quiet.
Then, so you just got to deal with it as best you. Make mistakes. Clearly, they're going to make mistakes because it is unprecedented. But hindsight's going to tell us for the next time. If hope to God there isn't a next time, we could do it this way. There's going to be mistakes made, whatever decisions they make, in order to finalise the season or not finalise the season. There's going to be mistakes made.
Yeah,
and which is. Listen, nobody can blame people for making the wrong decisions in these circumstances.
No.
You know,
I can blame you for making the wrong decision to boot them tickets.
I'm blaming your parents for making a wrong decision 38, 40 years ago.
Hey, that wasn't a decision. That was a mistake.
That wasn't even lust.
I don't need to come here to be insulted, you know. I can go from anywhere.
Yeah, but we enjoy it more when you come here.
I don't.
Yeah, so it's crazy, interesting times. I mean,
I don't know about the interesting.
No, frightening times, I'd say that.
Well, what interests me is that every day when you there's something new. You know, that's that does interest me. I mean, maybe in a macabre sense, but at least it's a news day every day. You know.
Not the news you want to hear, though, is it?
Exactly. But that we'll just. Yeah, I was going to start a conspiracy theory there, but
oh God.
What was I going to say? So yeah, I mean, how does it affect transfers? Now, let me ask you a question, right? I was thinking about the other day. Now, just say, for example, right, Paul Dybala has Dybala. Is it?
Yeah.
Paulo Dybala, yeah.
All right, Mr. Sophisticated.
He's got an O on the end of his name. He's not Paul.
All right. Dybala, right? He's had corona. He's got the coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
Now, they don't know how this affects somebody and when they heal. So if he gets transferred, will that affect his transfer fee? And I know he has medicals, but they don't know the long-lasting effects of the COVID-19.
It's a very good point, Dan. Actually, very good point.
You're welcome.
Do you know what? I've got no idea how to answer that because I had not even considered that until you said it.
See, there's so many talking points.
I'm
so many
shocked that you've come up with something that's almost intelligent. Oh, bloody hell, what's that? You got bad wind there, Bill?
No, I'm good. I don't think that was my end, was it?
I just assumed.
No.
You need to oil that pacemaker, Bill. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different permutations and ramifications. Sadly, look at the guy from Real Madrid, the ex-president.
Oh yeah, Lorenzo Sanz.
Yeah.
I don't really remember him, to be honest.
No, I didn't know. I didn't remember him at all.
No, me.
I know the
Whenever you think
name, but
of
I don't
Real
remember
Madrid-
anything about him. But why would we?
Unfortunately, Maldini. No, he was over there talking about that. We're going to do the.
You're not going to forget Maldini in a hurry. Let's be honest.
No,
What a player he was.
Him and his son have got COVID-19. I mean, it's crazy. So we are we're going through we're going to have to recalibrate for about a year or two after this, for sure, because there's going to be like legacies and of this situation.
Yeah.
And well, as I said, if it rejigs the system, so be it. May hope positive effects out of this darkness. There comes some kind of light and positivity.
Well, there's been a lot of divorces so far, or separations.
Really? Is that?
Apparently so. Yeah, apparently it's increased the rate of separations in a lot of countries. Can't think why.
But where are they going to go if they're self-isolating? Where are they going to go? To the other room?
Exactly. Yeah. That's why your missus hasn't left you yet.
How the hell are you meant to separate from somebody during a self-quarantine period? You can go to the hospital.
But that reminds me. Did you see the Scottish government are having a bit of a fit about people people in going up in tents and camper vans and that up to the Highlands in Scotland to escape, but they're going to campsites. There's thousands of empty miles of of open land in Scotland they could go and self-isolate, and they're all going to bloody campsites. I mean, morons. What a bunch of idiots.
So they're not social distance. I didn't see that. It's hilarious. Oh, let's social distance in the Highlands. Yeah. Millions and millions of people, yeah.
We'll go somewhere that's really, one of the most empty areas of the world.
Remote.
And then we'll go where everybody else goes when they're there.
Fort William, they all gone. That's where they were gone.
They're all texting each other saying, right, I'm going to go self-isolate in the Highlands. You should come with me. And everybody's sending the same text.
I don't know what you're laughing for. You sent that to me as well. You're just upset because nobody wanted to go where you were.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, obviously. Obviously, definitely you.
Listen, at least I leave my house out of...
only because your missus throws you out every day.
Yeah, she's had enough of me. Mate, you don't know how much cooking I get through. I cook so much during the day, it's unbelievable. I cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Are you guys self-isolating, by the way?
I am to a certain extent.
I'm just doing what I usually do.
Tristan's been doing it. To the age of 7. So
exactly. What's the issue? I don't know what people are moaning about. I went out last month. What's the problem?
To get milk and eggs.
No, I get them delivered. I just went out on the balcony to have a look, see what it was like outside.
Tristan's mum, when he was a kid, telling, go out and play with your friends, Tristan. And Tristan says to his mum, you taking a piss, mum?
I hadn't have friends, God's sake. What are you talking about?
You had football, didn't you, Tristan?
Yeah, why do you think I love football so much? It was my only friend because I had the ball. It's the only time I had the kids who play with me.
Do you remember those stickers? The match? Was it shoot or match? The Panini stickers.
Yeah, well, you used to get them in the shops. I don't remember them being in.
No, they weren't shoot or match. Panini had their own sticker album.
Panini,
yeah.
And did you get a bubble gum with it or something in the packet?
Oh no, you're thinking of something else. That's not the Panini ones.
I remember when I got Andy Gray, I was well happy. I don't know what.
I actually really rated Andy Gray as a player. He was one of my favourites. Same, he's such a dick.
But we should let people know we're gonna go. Phil, as a time filler, we're gonna do our all-time British 11, and later on.
That should waste a good 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you a question. Who the flipping heck is? Who the hell is Lautaro Martinez? I've never heard of him.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I was thinking, I don't remember him in the British 11. Threw me out.
All of a sudden, he's the hottest prospect
Good
in
player.
Like, world football.
He's inter-striker, isn't he?
Yeah, but why would they not want to sell him? I mean, they're not a selling club.
Well, they don't
got
want to
loads
sell
of
him.
money.
They don't want to sell him. But everybody wants to buy him because he's been that good.
Is he Argentinian or?
Yeah, Argentinian, I think, isn't he? He is Argentinian.
Is he that good?
I like him. What I've seen of him anyway. I haven't seen like more than like 5 games, but he looks fantastic.
Wow. I mean,
they said that about Jack Rodwell, so I'm taking nothing for granted.
Well, obviously, after seeing the likes of him, yeah.
And they said that about Yerry Mina.
No, nobody ever said that about Yerry Mina. Nobody's ever said he was any good. Even the Everton scout said, "Oh, I wouldn't touch him with a barge pole."
So they bought him.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
the advisor was obviously Everton's advisor. We know who he is. He must have been Yerry Mina's agent.
Absolutely.
Nobody else would have been advising him to buy him.
I think there's a player in there somewhere.
I think it's more they were thinking when they put the ground by the dock, he can be out there as a tugboat to bring the boats over.
He doesn't say it quick enough.
Yeah, that's true, Will. That's true. Fair point.
I think we can go on. Hey, I think we should mention at this juncture good news about Sean Cox going back home to Ireland.
Yeah.
Hospital.
Yeah, it's really good for his family and that big step. That.
Yeah, I mean, it's criminal that guy, the perpetrator, only got 3 years. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's been 2 years and he's only just gone home.
Exactly.
And he's still, there's a long way to go for him. So.
There's a long path. We wish him luck with that. But there's something wrong with the justice system in this country, in this continent. You can put basically near enough end somebody's life as they know it, and then you only get 3 years. It fails me.
Yeah, it'll be out in 18 months. So it's just not justice, is it really?
Not at all. Not even close, mate. Not even close. I think anything else you lads want to discuss before we go on to the all-time British 11?
Not unless we want to talk about which camper van we're using when we go off to Scotland after this. Didn't you say you were sorting that out, mate? That was your job, wasn't it, Bill?
Yeah, I thought that. I can get a camper van from someone.
Yeah. Up in the islands, Fort William.
It's got to be at least 15 feet in length because we've got to keep 5 feet apart from each other.
Yeah. And have air conditioning.
Absolutely, yeah. All-time British 11, lads?
Right.
I'm ready.
Go on, Trish, you start.
Right, so we're going to start with goalkeeper, I assume.
Yeah.
Build from the back, yeah?
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Let's start with manager.
Oh, I didn't even thought of that.
Yeah, of course you didn't. I'm here to do the thing.
Oh, well, that's easy, that one.
Paisley.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest That's the easiest one of all. Paisley's without
I might disagree with that.
I know you're going to say Kendall.
Here we go, Joe.
No, I'm going to say Alex Ferguson.
No, not a chance.
Why?
He's the most successful manager in history of football. So
But he's won less He's won less European Cups than Paisley did, and Paisley only did less than half as long as him. Only just over a third as long as him in charge.
But domestically, you can't knock him.
Well, if Paisley had have had 20 odd, if Paisley had have had 15 years, he'd have won more.
And Paisley slippers.
Well, possibly.
And Paisley was just brilliant. He was such a nice guy as well, and that.
Yeah, I like Paisley.
But ruthless as well.
Oh, some of his quotes are brilliant. Like when Shankly, because his first weekend after finishing at Liverpool, after retirement, and they said to Paisley, "Well, so what's Bill Shankly doing now?" He said, "Oh, he's trying to get right away from football. He's going to watch Everton." And that was true. No, it was true. He was at Everton watching the Everton game. That's what he said, right away from football. I thought that's brilliant from Paisley, though.
You're going to look at this through rose-tinted glasses. I don't blame you. I don't blame you a little bit.
Paisley's the greatest.
Paisley was a great manager. But I think if you ask people who weren't Liverpool supporters, the first thing that would come into the mind would probably be Ferguson.
Yeah, but only because they've grown up on the Premier League only.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's, and Paisley didn't have the most money ever to spend in the history of the game to build his team with.
No, but it's not all
Ferguson
about money.
did. Yeah, but I'm just saying,
Billy. Paisley, in 9 seasons, won 6 First Division titles and 3 European Cups. I mean, in 9 years...
Brilliant. That's brilliant, you can't argue.
How many European Cups did Fergie win?
2, I think, wasn't it?
Exactly. 26 years to win 2.
Yeah, it could be said that it was a little bit harder in his era to win.
What? It was much harder in Paisley's era.
In Paisley's?
No, the other way round to win the European Cup was much harder. Yeah, it was much harder because you had to win the league to qualify, remember, or win the European Cup.
Yeah, of course you did, yeah.
Now, you could, I mean, how many times, like Liverpool 2005, didn't even finish in the top 2 and still won it?
Yeah.
And Fergie's one of his European Cups came and they didn't win the league the previous season, so they wouldn't have been even in it in Paisley's era.
So we're saying Paisley is a manager.
For me, it has to be. He's the greatest ever. I'm sorry. It's not even a dispute for me. I find it quite strange when people say, I think Ferguson was brilliant, but Paisley is just another level. He changed the English game.
I can't dispute, but I think you'd have to consider at least Alex Ferguson.
Alex Ferguson could be the assistant manager.
I'll have that, yeah.
Number 2, I'm quite happy. He's definitely there's no argument that if you're arguing, that he's in the conversation as the next best. But then you got to say Clough and Busby. Brendan Rodgers would definitely say Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah,
but Clough and Busby would have to be. See, for me, I think Busby has. I would be struggling to put Ferguson above Busby as well, because Busby built the club.
What about Shankly? What about Wenger?
And Shankly, another one. But I think Paisley took Liverpool.
Wenger revolutionised football when he came along. So
I'd agree with you there, Hank. I really would.
Yeah, but Ferguson stepped up and came at and and took it to the same level. So I would say Ferguson has to be slightly above him, at least slightly above him. If I was going, much as I hate
that as well, because he won more accolades.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys good with that? Paisley as manager and Fergie as assistant manager?
Yeah, I'll buy that. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Just one thing I wanted to say. You just have to look at Ferguson's time as Scotland manager. That's where you see that he's not necessarily the great. He couldn't always. He did have weaknesses. He wasn't a coach for starters. He was a manager.
Yeah, he was a manager. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas Paisley was a coach a physio, and a manager. He was everything. That's for me the big difference is, Paisley could have done it on his own. Ferguson needed good people alongside him.
That's a point.
All right, goalkeeper.
I'm going to say Gordon Banks.
I'm going to say Neville Southall.
I'm going to say Alison Becker.
Obviously.
The game's changed is the problem with goalkeepers. But Gordon Banks, he didn't wear gloves and he was still catching it, when they whacked at him.
I put Pat Jennings in there as well.
Yeah, he could catch it one-handed. Pat Jennings, Couldn't he? He had massive hands, caught it one-handed. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, great keeper.
I mean,
Southall was fantastic as well.
Yeah, Southall was amazing, but Jennings was just this wall. I mean, it was just caught everything.
But I've got to go with Gordon Banks because he was the only man, the only man that really stands compared to Levi Ashton as in like the world's greats.
I think it'd be hard to argue with.
I'd still go with Alison Becker.
I think it's changed keeping. I think it's changed a lot along the time. I think Ray Clements would be another shout. I thought fantastic keeper, Ray Clements.
Yeah, he was. But how many of them could play now? This is the problem. But Gordon Banks, But Banks could have done it because he could play outfield as well. He even did so on his return after his eye injury. His first game back, he played outfield.
Did he? Yeah, I didn't even know that.
We haven't mentioned Schmeichel yet.
Yeah, that's another good point, Hank.
Yeah, I'm not convinced he's one. I mean, he is a great keeper. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't have him in that absolute top bracket. Anyway, Schmeichel's not English. He's Danish. He's not British.
Yeah, but he played British League.
Yeah, but we were doing a British 11. I thought we were just British players.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that's changing. If you meant his son, Casper Schmeichel, I was thinking he's crap. No, nowhere near. Well, he's not. No, crap, but he's not nowhere near. But he's nowhere near this level.
No.
Oh, I thought I communicated that succinctly when I said it's players who've played in the British League.
No, we said best British 11, the British players. Otherwise, the goal. That's why I was wondering why you picked Alison Becker. And talked about Wenger as well. I was confused because we said that. I thought we were saving that for the next one.
That's where the communication, wonderful communication we have, Tristan.
Oh,
okay.
God, this is going to be difficult then, isn't it?
No, I can easily change. For me, then, I'd have Ray Clements for sure.
Yeah.
No, I think he'd have to have Banks simply because he won the World Cup winner. He's got. He's not only won the World Cup, he was a fantastic keeper.
And that's saved from Pele.
Yeah, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Southall would be second for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Backup keeper.
Yeah, Southall on the bench because he was fantastic.
Southall was an absolute joy and he played with a smile on his face.
Do you remember when Holland beat Wales? Was it 7-0 or 7-1? I can't remember which. And he was man of the match. He must have saved 50 shots.
Billy, what were his attributes? Because you obviously were an avid Everton fan. I mean, I grew up with a team of Howard Wilkinson's. I mean, he was really that good, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was really that good. He commanded the area. He was big, he was strong. Centre forwards, he'd go right through them. It didn't matter who it was. He'd go right through them to get the ball. And he had a great pair of hands as well. He was a really good keeper.
Yeah, I'd say he's the best I've seen in actually watched live. Because obviously I've never actually seen, but I've seen Banks on footage rather than live in the flesh. Southall's the best I've seen in the flesh.
Yeah, I think it'd be very close between. I've seen both, but for me, because I'm Evertonian, I'd probably go for Southall. I haven't got problem with having Banks in.
In the modern era, though, I mean, we don't know whether any of these keepers are managed. That's the only. I say Banks would have probably managed because he played out. Like I said, he managed to play outfield for his first game back, but it was only a friendly, like, you know what I mean? I mean, you don't know whether they could have actually changed and managed. I just assumed they would.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned Peter Shilton.
Yeah, he was the one that drove that they sold Banks for. That's why they sold him to Stoke.
Yeah,
Shilton was coming through. Not convinced he was even.
He was a good keeper. I wouldn't put him up there.
No, he had too many mental problems with his gambling addiction, and that it did make him a bit. At times, he could be a bit naff. When he was on his game, he was excellent, but at times he was a bit dodgy. You know what I mean?
Who was better, Clements or Shilton?
Clements.
I'd say Clements. I'd go for Clements before him. He was such a commanding figure in the defence.
Wonderful keeper was Clements. He was a model of consistency for years and years.
He was, yeah.
I mean, if you want the archetypal boring player, but wow, was he consistent? Kept the ball out of the net.
He done everything he needed to do. He was the last line of defence, and he was a sweeper as well at times. I had a lot of respect for Ray Clements. Thought he was a cracking keeper.
Yeah, me too.
He said nice things about you too, Bill.
Did he? Yeah.
No.
All right, guys. So should we move on to the left back?
Right, come on.
Do you want to give yours since you've had to rethink it?
I would assume it's probably out of Dennis Irwin or Ashley Cole or Steve Nicol. I mean, I know this is you're going to say I'm looking at
no. That's the three I was torn between. But I thought Steve Nicol. I ended up leaving out Steve Nicol purely because I couldn't decide which position to pick him in.
Ashley Cole for me.
That's why he probably is the winner, because he could play three positions.
Yeah, but you know, you're putting him in the team over a specialist. I mean, Dennis Irwin was fabulous player, but I think Ashley Cole just pips him for me.
Yeah, I'd say Cole all day. I'd have him in my side every time. Ashley Cole.
That's a tough one. Irwin was another boring model of consistency. Yeah,
very good player.
And he wasn't even left. He wasn't even a left back, but he was a right back.
Yeah, so I
took
don't know.
Penalties as well, Irwin, and it was absolutely. You know, you could rely on him from the penalty spot as well. Fantastic.
Never
player.
Got injured.
Shame he played for Man United, or I'd have liked him.
He was a very likable player.
Oh, fantastic! I really did. I have great respect for Dennis Irwin, one of my favourite players of all time, despite playing for the wrong team. But I would have to say Ashley Cole, because he's just a better all-round player, slightly. Mostly because he's probably left-footed, which is an advantage, obviously.
Yeah, it's Ashley Cole for me. I've got.
Arsenal must have been absolutely mortified when they got when they sell him to Chelsea.
Well, they couldn't keep him after. I mean, they only offered him a measly, what was it, 10 grand a week pay rise? Disgraceful. No wonder he nearly crashed his car.
He was on 60 grand or something, wasn't he? At Arsenal, they offered him, I think, something like that. I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but it was just like I think he was on something like 30, and they offered him 40, and Chelsea offered him 60, wasn't it?
Okay,
something like that.
Yeah. And then he nearly crashed his £300,000 car.
Yeah, I know. It must be because it's such a hard life being him.
Yeah, you know, I mean, what is that? I mean, I know you. I mean, at the end of the day, they've got 10 years to make as much money as they can. I mean, do you blame them for, like, going after an extra 20 grand a week?
No, not in the slightest. But it's just to said the way he said it, as if they'd done him down, done him a disservice by offering him a 10 grand a week pay rise. I mean, come on, lads. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
10 grand a week is enough for you to do your 10 years and make let alone with that it's on top of what you're already earning.
Yeah, you don't put it in the memoirs. That's
no, you definitely don't.
But you can't judge a player on wages. Judge ability, and he had fantastic ability, Ashley Cole.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to judge a player on wages because otherwise Neymar would be top of the tree in France, even above Mbappe. He earns £1 million more a month than Mbappe.
Yeah, fantastic.
How the hell do you pay Neymar £1 million more a month than Mbappe? Badness.
Is that that's actually salary from PSG, or is that?
Yeah, that's his wages is higher, €1 million a month, according to whatever magazine it is that does it.
National Enquirer.
No, I can't remember. I've actually got L'Equipe, do an annual salary list for France's League One. Because Thomas Tuchel earns as much as the salaries of managers of Nimes, Metz, Toulouse, Amiens, Dijon, Reims, Angers, Brest, Strasbourg, Montpellier, Nantes, and Rennes put together.
Oh my god!
So almost basically over half the League One managers put together earn less than Thomas Tuchel.
Good luck to him.
But he's not even a particularly good manager. Bizarre.
And the problem, and the irony is, they had a shout of winning the Champions League as well.
Yeah.
They had a really good shout. I mean, I would have thought they were one of the favourites after we went out. But that's I don't know if he's gonna. I think he's gone, isn't he? I think they won't. I mean, who knows anything now? What's going to happen? But the way things are going, I don't think he's going to stay there.
Yeah, no. But anyway, so who did you pick anyway? Because I've gone for Ashley Cole.
I went for Ashley Cole.
So who have you picked?
Steve Nicol.
Right. Okay. Interesting choice.
So it's Ashley Cole then.
Yeah.
All right then. All right. Let's go because I can't wait to stick Aurelio in there when we do the other one. What was I going to say? Let's do right backs.
This gave me major to do. I really struggled with this one.
This is a Liverpool 11 for me.
Well,
yeah, no, it would be.
The problem is the only one the two I could come up with, and I was trying to think of anybody who wasn't playing for Liverpool, but the two I had in between was Trent Alexander-Arnold and Steve Nicol.
I've got Phil Neal and Rob Jones.
Well, Rob Jones didn't play for long enough for me. That's the only reason I didn't have him in there, because of his injuries. Otherwise, he'd have been head and shoulders. Rob Jones would have been top of the tree for me. He's the best I've ever seen, but he was only playing for a few months. You know what I mean?
I like Phil Neal.
Sad, isn't it?
Phil Neal was class. I just never went that far back. See?
Liar.
No, when I was figuring it out, when I was looking up the things, because I was rushing. Remember, I said to you, I hadn't got ready.
Yeah. I mean, Phil Neal, again, another model of boring consistency, but won so much. And if it wasn't for him, he was one of the main cogs in that Liverpool machine.
Tommy Smith was another one that I was thinking. Right back.
Yeah, but yeah.
He was a bit too slow. He would never into his football, Tommy Smith. He was good at it because he had good players around him, but I don't think he was just very strong at full-back for me.
I don't think he gets into a world.
Oh, no. He did have more ability than people gave him credit for. I was just saying, I was just literally trying to think who played right back and rushing to do it. And that's why I ended up Steve Nicol or Trent Alexander-Arnold. And you've got to go. I mean, I loved Steve Nicol, but he's one of those you want on the bench so you can put him in and fill in wherever an injury is. And so Trent's just broken records 2 years in a row for the most assists.
Yeah.
I just can't look past him. He's changed the game. He's made the right back
I don't
into
think
the
he's
key
played
position.
long enough. I don't think he's played long enough to be considered.
That's the only issue I had, is whether he's played long enough to be considered.
No doubt about his ability.
It's the same with Rob Jones. I just couldn't look at him because he'd only played a few months, really.
Yeah, but that doesn't detract from his ability.
No, it doesn't detract from his ability, but it detracts from his longevity and his ability to play over a sustained period, which you're looking for in a World 11.
Yeah, I see your point. Ivanovic would be another one.
No, I wouldn't even have him near the top 500. He wasn't even good. He wasn't even one of the best Chelsea, right? Ivanovic. By the way, he's in. When we're doing it, British 11, remember? Oh yeah,
sorry, yeah. Doesn't Ivanovic sound like a British name to you?
It's very British.
Yeah, I would. Oh, Gary Neville.
Gary Neville's got to come into it.
Really?
I think so. Yeah.
I
thought he was a damn good player.
I don't know. I wouldn't say he wasn't a good player, but I wouldn't say he was a great player. That's my point. I think it was more the partnership he had with David Beckham was fantastic. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like saying Pallister and Bruce, brilliant pairing, but as individual players, were they the greatest? They were, as a pairing, brilliant. As a pairing, one of the best ever pairings the Premier League's ever seen. But as individual players, were they as great as, say, Bobby Moore? No, you're not even going to consider them in the same league, are you?
Yeah.
Lee Dixon? Was Lee Dixon considered?
Oh, Lee Dixon. I'd forgotten about him.
Very good player, longevity.
Yeah. But he wasn't good going forward, though. But he never had to for Arsenal. Under George Graham.
I wouldn't have him in my top 3 of all time. Greats. I don't know.
I'd have no problem with Phil Neal.
I wouldn't argue with Phil Neal either. I just hadn't gone. Like I said, I didn't go that far back. So, like I would have gone with. I would say because obviously I was rushing it like in the last few minutes. I went Trent, and it was him or Steve Nicol, and I would say that if we're ruling out because he's not played long enough, then I would still say Steve Nicol ahead of Phil Neal though, at right back.
Yeah, but
that was his best position for me.
Isn't Trent a better player than Phil Neal?
Oh, Trent's definitely the best player at the right backs. Without a doubt, I'd say that's why I was picked him, but he's changed the game. He's made right back into the key position.
But Steve Nicol was a goal-scoring right back.
He just did everything. He was defensively solid. He was brilliant going forward. Linked up play. I mean, he can play anywhere as well.
Yeah, I would. Steve Nicol was a phenomenal player, and so is Trent.
And he drank like a fish as well. Yeah, he could still run all day. It was incredible.
Incredible, yeah. Cardio, brilliant stamina, conditioning. All right, so who are you going for, Bill?
I'm going for Phil Neal.
Trent. Trist.
Well, if I can go with Trent, I'll say Trent. If you decide he's not played long enough, then it's Steve Nicol.
No, he's broken records every. Yeah. I mean, broken records. Seasons. You played long enough.
2 seasons he's done that, so I think that's. I was thinking, I was looking at players that have at least performed for 2 seasons at least. You know what I mean? That was my lowest limit. Like,
listen, if you've shattered records, right? 2 seasons is. I mean, and you've only done it. It makes you a phenom in my eyes, and worthy of your name on the all-time 11.
I disagree with that. I disagree because he's had 2 fantastic seasons, and he looks a really good player. And if he'd done it for 5 seasons, I'd say, yeah, he's in. You know what I mean? What did Neil play? 10, 12 seasons?
Yeah, but Billy, listen to this. Phil Neal's had 12 seasons, and Trent's done it in 2. Surpassed everything Phil Neal's done, apart from the accolade, in 2 seasons. So the guy had 12 seasons to do it, and Trent's done it in 2.
Yeah, I can see your point. But my point being that if you look at the trophies that Neal's and the team he played with, and he was one of the integral parts of that, for me, it's Phil Neal. But, I'm not going to disagree with
I can see your point, but if I was going to pick an all-time, if it was just Liverpool and you couldn't pick Trent, like you had to be old-time Liverpool players, past Liverpool players, I would have Steve Nicol at right back ahead of Phil Neal, much as I love Phil Neal.
All right, well, we'll have to agree to disagree on that.
All right, that's a good point. That's a good point to go next. Let's start the centre-backs.
Yeah, this was a tough one.
Wow.
Centre-backs for me, one of mine, and I hate to say it, is Alan Anderson.
Yeah, that was
fantastic centre-back.
Definitely, 100%. He was my first name on the. When I was writing it down, he was the first name I put in.
You cannot look beyond Alan Hansen, mate. You cannot.
He could have played today as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah.
So who did you have as the other one then? Because I had Bobby Moore was my other one.
Mine would be Bobby Moore. That was going to be mine.
So.
I had Terry, Vidic, Stam, Ledley King, Tony Adams, Rio Ferdinand.
Yeah, it's got to be English. I thought about Rio.
Sorry.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great player, Rio.
Yeah, he was a good player, Rio.
Yeah, I suppose Bobby Moore and Alan Hansen. Imagine that. Both ball-playing centre-backs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, both ball players, yeah.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have just picked a stroke. I didn't want to pick. I wanted the centre-back who could do everything, and Moore was fantastic at everything.
Yeah.
I
would have probably picked, if you're getting technical, probably picked a stopper with a ball-playing centre-back.
Exactly. If I was going to do it properly, just picking a team, but I was picking the best 11.
Yeah. I think Ledley King with Alan Hansen would have been some partnership.
Oh, no, sorry, British. I was thinking, I got mixed up there. I nearly said Paul McGrath. That'll upset a few people.
Paul McGrath was something else.
Yeah, it was just because we were thinking about, because you mentioned Ledley King, the injuries, the knee problems. They both had them.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
But they played injured. Can you imagine what it was like? It's like
they didn't train.
If Maradona didn't play high on cocaine, can you imagine what he?
Well, those two didn't train, McGrath and King, and yet still turned out those performances every single week. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah, but can you imagine Maradona not coked up every week? Imagine what he'd have been. You know what I mean? It's like, it's insane. They had these.
Somebody shut the budgie up, will they?
Now I'm going for Moore and it'd be my two.
And I'm agreeing with you, Bill.
I'm not old enough to remember Bobby Moore, so I'm an Alan Hansen.
So Hansen's a shoe-in then.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm not old enough to remember Bobby Moore, but I've just watched plenty of footage. I mean, how could you live in England and not have to sit through the '66 World Cup over and over again? At least once every 4 years, you have to watch it. You get it shoved down your throat, don't you?
Absolutely. I'm still going Ledley King.
I wouldn't know. He was a fantastic player, so I wouldn't be disappointed with him in the defence.
Not too shabby. No, it's not a shabby defence. Oh. So what have we got so far? We've got Paisley manager, goalkeeper. We have Banks. Left back we have Ashley Cole. Right back we have Steve Nicol. Centre back Alan Hansen and Bobby Moore. Wow, yeah.
It's a solid defence.
That works for me.
Now talk to me about Woodgate, lads. Was he really that good as people say?
Woodgate.
I mean, I
No.
thought he was a very good player.
Oh, yeah, he was very good, but he was always injured and rash. He was an idiot.
He was, yeah, absolute tosser. You couldn't have him in.
He was a racist piece
Didn't
of
take anything
crap.
serious.
And not being funny, but this violent incident with the kid, that wasn't the first time he stamped on somebody's head. That was why he was booted out of Middlesbrough's academy and sent to Leeds in the first place.
Yeah. You can't have him. He can't even be
Thug.
considered for me.
He was an absolute vile thug, and he shouldn't be in football at all.
No.
He should have been in prison a long time before.
What he was saved because of his celebrity.
Because he played football. Yeah, because he was a professional footballer. That's why he didn't go to jail when he was at Middlesbrough. That's the only reason he stayed out of jail, because Middlesbrough managed to get it hushed up and, had it all sorted and sent him off to Leeds.
Yeah, so I don't think he can be considered. I think we've got our
Yeah.
He's not in the same league anyway as Alan Hansen and Bobby Moore or Ledley King. You know what I mean? I wouldn't pick him even close to them. Or Rio Ferdinand. Ferdinand was better.
Right.
Yeah, Ferdinand was a damn good player.
Weren't they the two central defenders at Leeds, Ferdinand and Woodgate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends, actually. Only Woodgate was just breaking him, wasn't Radibi alongside Ferdinand, actually?
Yeah, Radibi.
And then,
he was a good player.
then when
Good
Radibi
player.
went, he was brilliant. But when Radibi, I think he was the rotation with Radibi, wasn't he, Woodgate, if I remember rightly.
He was,
that Leeds side. That one with the David O'Leary was manager.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of doing research on an article about them, so I should know this, but it's it's a bit confusing because they all. Rio got sold and all that, didn't they? So.
And they had a buffoon as an owner, Ridsdale, didn't they? Ridsdale?
Chief executive, not owner.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? I thought he owned it. Yeah.
No, he was chairman or chief executive, which one or the other.
He was rubbish with money, apparently, wasn't he?
No, well, he made certain. No, he was rubbish for the club. For himself, he was pocketing huge amounts of money, and then he went off to Bradford. And just before they went into administration, he managed to pocket himself and all the other directors. I think it was £600,000, if I remember correctly at the time.
Wow. All right, guys. Central midfielders.
Central midfielders.
Two of them.
Now.
There was only one
Alan
name.
Ball.
Was only one name for me that had to be first.
Graham
Souness.
first, obviously. Yeah.
Souness. I'll have Souness every day.
Fabulous
Big fan.
player. My favourite ever, as in, I think he's the best central midfielder of all time. He's an absolute machine. Obsessively fit.
I really can't disagree with you. He was phenomenal. I mean,
Do everything as well.
he scored
Yeah,
goals,
good player. Good player.
broke legs, tackled. Did you
Alan,
ever see that
to be
YouTube
fair, Alan Ball did play near a good team.
He's a good player, Alan.
No, don't you remember?
Very good
That's
player.
what Shankly said to him.
Yes,
Remember
Shankly
when he
said a lot of things.
signed when he signed for Everton, he
Yeah.
said to him, "Well, at least you'll be playing near a good team now."
So who do we put alongside Graham?
I went with Duncan Edwards, but then I suddenly thought of Brian Robson afterwards, so I'm now torn.
Yeah, I had Robson. Yeah, another
like
one
Brian
plagued by injury.
Yeah, if he hadn't got the injuries, I think it'd have been without doubt Brian Robson. But
I remember the iconic image of him going off in the World Cup.
well, it's pretty much all you ever saw was him getting taken off injured, wasn't it?
You make a very good point there, pal. Yeah. What was that in '82 when he was coming off on his shoulder? He'd done his shoulder after about 4 seconds.
Wasn't it? It was Mexico, wasn't it? That one was it Mexico one?
I was 70 Mexico, wasn't it?
Yeah, 70 was Mexico as well, but there was two. Wasn't there a second one in Mexico?
Yeah, there was. 78 was Argentina, was it? 74 was 74?
Yeah,
Germany?
78 was Argentina. Germany, Argentina final in '78. It would have been '82 then.
Yeah, it might have been 82.
Was that Spain? That one, 82.
Yeah.
'Cause that's the one where Italy won because they brought out Paolo Rossi from his lifetime ban for match fixing, so he could play for them, and he was top scorer.
And Toto Schillaci.
Yeah, I didn't really. That was a really that one for me. I don't. Yeah, that's the first I can remember because I remember having the book and it was this orange thing. Was the mascot?
How about Scholes in alongside Souness?
He did rise up there, Scholes. He was a very good player.
It's not on the same level for me. Like Gerrard, none of them are in the same level as Duncan Edwards or Brian Robson for me.
Never really seen Duncan Edwards. Hard for me to comment on him.
I've seen quite a bit of. The only thing with Duncan Edwards, the only reason why I'd say probably Brian Robson ahead of him, or even Bobby Charlton, would be the other one, is because he often played other positions. Is the problem with Duncan Edwards? It's a bit like Steve Nicol. Yeah. It's like, where'd you fit him? But I just think he deserves to go in because he was a magnificent player.
Didn't he play at centre half at one time?
He played up front. He played up front and in the back, I think, if I remember rightly. He was one of those, a utility player, but he was just a special talent.
Yeah.
I've got to say, and I know this is going to sound really controversial and ignorant, I never saw what everybody else saw in Paul Scholes. I didn't think he was that great. That everybody else, I know everybody else thinks he's phenomenal. I just don't think
he was so consistent. That was his big thing.
Scored goals, and he had a fantastic range of passing.
Yeah,
lack mobility.
I'll give you that.
And his defense, he got away with a lot of nasty challenges that he wouldn't have got in domestic competition that he didn't in Europe, and I think that was part of the problem United had in Europe. It's because he couldn't do it in Europe.
Yeah.
Hey, what about Roy Keane?
No, he's Irish for starters. For second, he's not in the same league. No, not for me.
I don't think you can have Souness and Keane in the same side. I think they're both too similar for me.
Yeah.
Not in ability, but in position.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a fair point.
Does Gerrard come into the reckoning anywhere?
Not for me.
Nor me.
No.
He's just a level down. He could have been the best ever if he'd have actually made the most of his talents.
Yeah.
Wow, really? You think that highly of his ability?
Oh, the problem was he was, he had too much power behind the scenes, and he was allowed to do what he wanted. If he'd have just done as he was told, you know what I mean, and actually knuckled down and done as he was told, rather than deciding he didn't want to play on the right anymore after his, that was his best season ever.
Oh my God, he was unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. But he didn't want to play on the right, and he told Rafa that, and he refused to play there. So, and don't get me wrong, he was very good wherever you played him. But I'm never happy with a player who says he won't play where he wants to, where you want him to play for your club, but then he says he'll play wherever he'll get him in the team when he's playing for England. I'm sorry, but that really just, for me, that's ruined him.
Is that a slight on Rafa? Because Rafa didn't have the balls to tell him what...
Rafa didn't have the power to tell him what to do. Because he would have been sacked if he'd have told him, if he'd have upset Gerrard. Gerrard had more power behind the scenes than any man. He was picking them. He picked Rafa, remember? In the end. Well, they wanted, because he wanted Kirbishley and who was the other one he was after? Him and Carragher were picking the managers along with Prick Parry. I mean,
that is.
Players shouldn't have that much power at a club. That's just wrong.
So they had full autonomy over who they were signing, transfers.
Well, they got involved in it rather than autonomy.
So they had knowledge of they were buying.
Well, yeah, Gerrard was often, Gerrard was the one that was... Why do you think we ended up with Joe Cole? He was Gerrard's mate.
Unreal. I remember watching the first game Joe Cole played against in Australia. It was about 4 a.m, and we played Arsenal. I think it was the first game of the season, and that legend Hodgson was the manager, and he got sent off, and he just didn't. It didn't. I mean, I had so much high hopes for that guy, but looking back, I kept
saying, I said to everyone before, I said, this has been the worst signing. Well, he's terrible. I never understood the hype about him. Never. Every time I saw him play, yeah, he's fancy flicks and all that. He's brilliant at, but he can't actually play football. You know what I mean? He's a playground player.
I thought he was decent at West Ham when he was a kid.
Yeah, he was a good player. He was a good player,
ability, but he's not a player. There's a difference between effect and ability. He didn't have an effect on the pitch for me. He just did things. You know what I mean? He's a bit like Ronaldinho, why I don't rate him as highly as most. Fabulous player. Just, his tricks are brilliant, but they don't have an effect. They didn't have as much an effect on the game as he should have done. Because he was doing them for the sake of it rather than for the sake of winning a match, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Can you believe that fella's in prison in Paraguay? That's incredible.
No.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Did you hear what happened? He said, "Oh, I thought it was just something that I thought it was just a present everyone gave you when you come into Paraguay,
What? Say that again.
He thought it was a gift, a Paraguayan, a custom that they give you this fake ID and stuff. I mean, come on, pull the other one, lad. You were trying to flee the country because you knew you can cross over into Paraguay. You got to remember, you can cross into Paraguay from Brazil without needing a passport. You just use your national ID. So he crossed over, and then suddenly he's getting fake ID with a Paraguayan. Well, why would you need it?
I don't understand. I mean, leave the country, he could just use his Brazilian passport, no?
We didn't need, but no, he can't. His passport was taken off him. He's been all sorts of things. He's been tax fraud and all kinds of other fraudulent things. He's been doing he's breaking all kinds of laws with things he's had built, and he's in a lot of trouble in Brazil with the government. So he's fleeing the country, and he got caught.
I see what you mean. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh well, at least he's got a smile on his face in prison. That's.
But he isn't smiling. Oh,
he's at barbecue on his 40th birthday yesterday. It was. He's having a great time. He's the captain of the football team.
Oh, for God's sake!
I'd be super surprised if he wasn't.
Well, you'd be wondering who was in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I go back to Joe Cole. For me, somebody like Declan Rice is a better player than Joe Cole.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that West Ham prodigy kind of thing. Joe Cole. I mean, we got him when he was in his party phase. You know what I mean? It's like, what makes us think that would have been a success?
He was the thing I don't get is you only had to look at him and you could see he was 3-4 stone overweight.
Yeah.
Why would you even consider so? That's just desperation, isn't it? And yet he turned down more money from Spurs to join us. What the hell was Spurs thinking?
That was the Hodgson area, mate. I forget. I totally. The only recollections I have of Hodgson era is the first game of the season against the one I was talked about, and when he got fired. So that's the only two games.
No, I remember one thing in particular about the Hodgson era is when he came out after we got beat by Everton and said a draw would have been a good result. And that was the moment when I turned against him and said he has to be sacked. Seriously, that was the moment when I said he has to be sacked now. Because you can't have a manager of Liverpool, same as you can't have a manager of Everton who comes out and says a draw against them, the other side, is a good result. It's not. It's never a good result, is it? A win's a good result. A draw is not a good result.
No, mate. There's never been a situation that I stopped watching Liverpool play or stopped supporting them, and I'm not kidding. During the Hodgson tenure, not tenure, but the period, it was I couldn't even care. I didn't even know when Liverpool were playing next. I couldn't care anymore. It was that bad.
I was said, can you imagine what the Liverpool site was like during that period? Oh God! And people wonder why I got ill.
Yeah. You should sue Roy Hodgson.
I think I should. It's his fault. He nearly killed me.
Was it 6 months he was manager? 8 months? A year?
It felt like about 17,000 years, to be honest.
Exactly, yeah. I think it was 6 months again, wasn't it? Or a month?
I thought it was 8 months.
It was more than 6 months, I'm sure of it. It just felt like forever.
They were brutal.
He didn't get the club at all.
No.
No. He was... I mean, I know they wanted rid of Rapper because he was a politician, but they could have got a better filler than...
Yeah, but they needed someone who wouldn't spend money because they had no money.
Yeah. Listen, we can't complain about what PSG have done. Let's face it. I mean, they made an absolute financial blessing.
You know, at the time it was going through hell. But anyway, so back to the midfield. So who have we gone with? Graham Souness and another, I think,
Bobby
innit?
Robson.
Brian Robson.
Robson, yeah, I'll have Rob.
Brian Robson, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, I think Bobby Robson played up front, didn't he? Just can't have him there.
Mate, I'm not sure, yeah. All right, let's go left wing. There's only one name.
So? Go on, who's your name?
You can't go, but you can't look beyond.
I know
Johnny
you're going to say, yeah, I would have. I've said that as well.
Who are you saying?
No, I've gone with Digger. Has to be.
Has to.
I'm going. Best.
No, I put him on the right.
Go on, Billy. Who?
Pardon?
George Best. I put him on the right.
Oh, right. He can play either way.
Yeah.
I've done the right. But I like John Barnes, don't get me wrong. But you've got to have, wherever you fit him in,
you got to have Best. Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
That's why I put him on the right, because I had John Barnes on the left. And I couldn't think of a better right. You know, I was thinking, who have I got, for the right? So, I've got George Best left over. I was thinking of having him up front, and then I thought, no, put him on the right, because I couldn't think of anybody better on the right. And I think that's the best.
What? Cristiano Ronaldo?
He's not British.
Oh,
and anyway,
yes.
George Best would be ahead. George Best would be ahead of him for me anyway.
Yeah.
Best
was something else. I mean, you can't miss him out. It's just a case of putting it. You've got to find somewhere to put him.
He really was the best, wasn't he? All right. So we just but John Barnes. Let's talk about John Barnes.
Ryan Giggs.
About John Barnes.
Ryan Giggs not
even close. No, not even close for me. No. Good player, but it's longevity rather than ability for him, if you see what I mean, that makes him in the conversation. Definitely one of the best, but John Barnes is just a different level. When he was playing, I remember the whole crowd would hold its breath when he went down, you know what I mean, injured.
Yeah,
just everything would stop. It felt like the guy, nobody was watching the the game was carried on. Everybody sat watching to see if Barnes got up okay, carried on. Oh.
He's a very good player, don't get me wrong. He never ever done it since. He scored a great goal against Argentina, or Brazil, was it? But he never really done it on a consistent basis for England, did he? Which I thought he would.
But there's not many.
I think he's a great player.
He didn't get played the same way, though. You've got to remember, he didn't get given the freedom for England that he did.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the quality of player he was playing with was much lower for large periods of it. Not all the time. At the end of his Liverpool time, the quality of players he was playing with, the England players would have been better, but not when he was at his peak with Liverpool.
When Dalglish bought Houghton, Beardsley, Barnes, that was an incredible time.
Just to point out, when we were talking about Paisley, that was Paisley influence at that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was his advisor. He was he was the man picker. Basically, Dalglish was player manager. Paisley was the man who did it, or did all that. He helped helped him pick the players and all that. Like, it was his influence that came up with them.
Where did he come from? He came from
Watford. Watford he played for, yeah.
£900,000. And we paid 1.9 million, I think it was, for Peter Beasley. At the same time.
Jeez.
Beasley was great, but apparently he's a bully and a racist, so we can't really be talking about including him, can we?
No, we can't.
He's under a cloud now, isn't he? But he wasn't really. He wasn't really. He was a. Where would you put him anyway? I mean, he was an attacking midfielder or second striker, really, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And the other thing about Barnsley was he's such a nice guy. I met him twice. Once I was in a nightclub, and he was surrounded by the most beautiful women you can ever imagine, and he had.
And none of them were his wife, no doubt.
Glad you said that and I didn't. But
I remember him quite a few times.
He was. The ladies liked him. That's
yes, he was a ladies' man, all right.
He had an infectious personality. He was always positive and bright and funny.
Bubbly. Yeah, he was bubbly.
Bubbly. That's exactly what he was. He's very bubbly and pugnacious. And then. I met him once in about 17 or 18, and I know 16 probably, and I met him in this expo, and I was following him all the way around the expo, and he looked at me and he goes, "Bloody hell, not you again!" It was well funny. But he's done it.
So what you're telling us is you're a stalker.
I stalked John Barnes. He was.
I can't argue with them two, George Best and Barnes, as our two wingers.
Wow, can you imagine? This team is seriously good. All right, let's go for the amateurs. Is that 9?
Yeah, we just got the forwards left.
We need 2 forwards now.
We got to go with 2 forwards. You got to get them in.
Well, mine would have to be Alan Shearer and Kenny Dalglish would be my 2.
Mine's Dalglish and Rush.
Well, mine was Dalglish and it was Rush. But I was thinking about Fowler was the other one. I was torn between those two. But then I remembered John Charles has to be in there.
Juve, Wales.
John Charles, the gentle giant and one of the greatest players of all time. Yeah, and he could jump higher than any of these players today, and he never used his arms for leverage. So when they tell you that you need to throw your elbows out, when you jump, John Charles used to jump higher than any of these buggers, and he never needed to throw his arms out, so it's just a lie.
Can't say I've seen much of John Charles.
I watched a bit watched a bit to do an article on him, and then I just watched loads because the guy is just one of those players. Oh, wonderful centre back or centre forward, and he was just outstanding. He was incredible.
It's hard to leave just for his record and the amount of goals that he scored. And a bit of a mention for Bob for me, who was a fantastic player, fantastic centre forward, but not as good as Shearer, I'd say.
I don't know. Shearer was a bit limited for my liking.
I don't think a player who scores that.
Yeah, but it's the way he did it. Can ever
be counted as limited?
It's the way he did it. He was literally in the width of the penalty box, never left it. The ball was always played to him, and it was always through him. Everything went through him. Whereas someone like Rush and Aguero and players like that, I'm not, obviously not counting Aguero in this. I'm just saying the difference is they do far more than just score goals. If you see what I mean, they score the goals and they play their part in the game as well.
All as I want my centre forward to do is put the ball in the net. Well, doesn't have to do anything else. I just want him to put that ball in. I like Rush, don't get me wrong, I think Rush was a very good player. But for me, I don't know about personal opinion, it would be Shearer and Dalglish, who was one of the best playmakers I've ever seen.
So
I don't think you can look beyond Dalglish and Rush simply because of the success and the telepathy.
They did work well together.
it's an incredible unison.
And Rush was the first modern centre forward of this kind of era, where the striker has to also defend from the front.
See, we're picking best players though. Now, if you picked like a back four, you'd say as a unit, Arsenal's back four.
Oh yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I haven't picked Rush. I've gone with John Charles. And you've gone again. Oh, where's my internet gone off again? That's what happened last time. You all went quiet because the internet went off. I'm going to have to remember to edit these bits out as well, which I probably won't. So I'm sorry if you're listening to this. This is the second time it's cut off. So if I've forgotten to edit this out as well, apologies, because you're going to be bored.
Phil Rush.
See, there you down the back. Sorry, you went for a bit then.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, I just thought Rush was a better finisher than Shearer. I feel that
Shearer's if you were going to pick a target man, Shearer. I can see you'd say but I think John Charles would have been better as a target man. He was stronger in the air and a better player.
I haven't seen him.
And you can't compare records because they played totally different era, and John Charles played so much at centre back as well, so it's difficult. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, Billy, but you're saying you're picking individuals, not units. But Rush and Dalglish were supreme footballers of their own right. Not just that they were a good team; they were in unison with each other. They were excellent footballers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. They were excellent footballers, but when you're looking for a centre forward who you want to put the ball in the net, I don't think you can look past Alan Shearer.
Whereas I'd rather have Rush if it was on the end of a chance than Shearer.
Would you? Well, not for me.
Rush or Fowler would be the one I'd pick if it was just that. Because
I was a Robbie Fowler fan.
The most naturally gifted finisher I've ever seen, without a doubt.
Very good player.
Football or world football?
Yeah, I'm talking about in world football ever. The most naturally gifted finisher. And, his all-round game was fantastic, but the problem was he had too many injuries, so I couldn't count him. Too much time out through injury and that. If he hadn't, he'd have been the best ever. He was absolutely incredible. He could beat players on the dribble. He could, get the ball over the top. He could be the link player, playing the Dalglish role. Free kicks round the edge of the box. Remember how deadly he was on them?
Penalties, everything.
Left foot, he was more than just. He could be a playmaker as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Range of passing was world class. You know what I mean. He was a fabulous player, far better than he's ever given credit for.
Another one for me though, who never actually done it on the world stage. Like when he played for England, I thought he was okay for England, but he never produced what he produced for Liverpool with England, whether that's down to the manager or where he was playing.
He was always marginalised for England.
At that time, England was all about who played for Spurs, and everyone else was an afterthought. That was the way it was back then.
I can have that.
So, it was difficult for any player who didn't play for Spurs to get to. I don't know why it's always been a favourite of theirs, the FA Spurs. I don't know what that's from. Someone's going to have to explain that to me one day.
Wasn't Ian Wright the favoured forward at that time? Teddy Sheringham. Wright and Sheringham were the favourites.
Teddy and both played in that area, yeah.
Shearer, was he still about then? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was still about Shearer.
Fowler was just a kid. Fowler was, 24 before his injury problems became severe. So, if I remember rightly, he's not even at his prime. So we never got to see him in his prime. It's a shame.
His ability was fantastic. He is the most. But I'd still have to go Shearer. No, I can't get past Shearer.
No, I can understand why you're saying him. But I just think if it was a one-on-one situation and you needed a striker to finish it off, and you can't include Fowler because obviously he didn't play enough. I still think Rush should be. I'd rather have my money on Rush than him.
Well, do you think he was good enough in the air, Ian Rush?
Ian Rush was very good in the air.
I thought he
scored a lot of headers.
He had great players around.
Not as good as Shearer in the air. I fully agree with you.
Around.
It wasn't as good as Shearer in the air. If it was just, but like, you know, the game isn't about lumping it in the air into the box.
It's not. It's not about one. But I think Shearer had more to his, heading the ball and it with both feet.
Billy, remember when Rush scored 4 against Everton in the derby?
Can you remind me of that, mate? I can't remember that one. I need a reminder of that. Could you tell me all about it and describe every goal in great
I don't want to go too over the top in case this season gets null and void. Then I don't want to text from Billy.
No, I mean, I can see what you're saying, though, Billy. Shearer was definitely one of the best English centre forwards.
Yeah.
I just think the only reason I wouldn't consider him is because I think John Charles was better at what he could do.
Yeah, see, I can't consider John Charles.
Yeah, I know it's difficult. Well,
I don't know enough about him.
Yeah, and that's where the problem.
I think it would be remiss of us not to mention Dalglish at this juncture because.
Well, we've all agreed on Dalglish, haven't we?
Yeah, he's a shoo-in.
Yeah, we've all picked Dalglish, so he's definitely in.
I think he was only in British football. I think he was second to George Best, in my opinion. I think there was George Best is. I think he's probably on that echelon on it, or that sphere of his own, and then comes Dalglish. For me,
yeah, I love Dalglish.
I idolized the King when I was growing up. He was my role. He was.
I think a good person as well. With Chelsea.
Good point.
Because
good point, mate. Good point.
It's not just about how the game, and that's why I'm a big fan of Klopp.
Yeah.
He done an interview when he said, when we go to pick a player, we look at not only his ability, but what he is as a human being and as a personality and how he fits into the side rather than just on ability-wise. And that's great.
There goes the pacemaker again.
I know.
Yeah,
he's obviously microwaving a lot of meals tonight. You open it.
You open that text.
I'm going to open it now.
Open it now.
It'll be from him.
Like
we said, you've only got 2 friends, and they're both on this podcast with you.
Where'd you get these from, yeah?
You don't want to ask questions like that, mate.
A journalist never reveals his sources.
Right, back to Dalglish. What a good player he was. Yeah, I can't argue with Dalglish. Much as I'd like to.
No Everton players you want in there? Dixie Dean or anyone?
Never seen him play. Never seen Dixie Dean play.
Oh, come on. You're not going to tell us you're too young.
I am too young.
My God.
Yeah.
What about Ferguson?
Which Ferguson?
I think he means Doug.
I've seen him play, yeah.
He didn't have Howard Kendall's watch when he was a player, though, so he was no good.
Yeah,
he robbed it off him, I think. No, he can never be described as a no, it's got to be Dalglish, and I'm sticking by me, Shearer. You can change whatever you want, but I've got to stick with Shearer. I know you're going to say Rush, but if you say Rush, it's Rush.
But Billy, that's an incredible front two, Dalglish and Shearer. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
whichever we pick, I'm happy with, because I'd be up any of those 3. I can see a thing.
With George Best and John Barnes supplying the bullets, bloody hell, can you imagine?
And Graham Souness crippling anybody who tries to get past.
This manager lark is easy.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I'm in the wrong job.
Are we going to have substitutes?
Wait, if This
Oh,
season
wait,
goes
yeah.
away, his dog won't have a job.
Yeah, nobody's
Because
got
I'd
one,
like to give a bit of a mention to Matt Letizia, who was a marvellous player,
loved
by
him.
the way. What a good player to watch.
Yeah.
What a good player
Royal
to
as
watch.
well.
And he was effective because he scored goals and created
Yeah,
them.
he scored a lot of goals, yeah. Really good player.
Not just for any goal. I mean,
Yeah,
ridiculously
top quality
good
goals, yeah.
I mean, Roy of the Rovers goals.
Do
They literally were
I've
like
got to
goals
ask,
of the month every week.
did you think I know Gascoigne got it a lot of the time towards the end of his career. Wasn't he the one that choice ahead of Letizia? Or am I getting that?
No, you might be right there. But
Would you have him ahead of Letizia? Because I wouldn't.
no, I wouldn't. He had too many problems off the field to be considered for me. He was a loose cannon, Paul Gascoigne. Ability-wise, a fantastic player, but a bit of a loose cannon for me.
Yeah, he wasn't right in the, he wasn't right, was
No, not mentally stable, I don't think.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. A nice way to say that.
I wouldn't. I mean, you couldn't. I mean, but then again, he was an absolute hero in it when he played for Lazio.
Yeah, but Lazio people, the Lazio fans are a bit weird. I mean, they goose step and stuff. I'm not sure I'm not sure I'd want to be associating myself with with people who consider Nazism as like their guiding principle, mate.
Fair enough. But did he win the Scudetto? Did he win Serie A?
No, not with Barry. No,
Scudetto.
Wasn't he playing for Barry, not Lazio, anyway?
He might have played for Barry, yeah. I think he did play for Barry. So
he might have been a big hero in Lazio, but I'm sure he didn't play for them. I don't know, actually. Did he play for them? I'm going to have to check that.
I think he did play for Barry, I know that.
Yeah, I remember that was who signed him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, he played for Lazio.
I'm sure.
Did he? I thought he played for Barry. I don't know whether he moved to match.
He might have joined Lazio as well, but I'm sure he was at. Why am I thinking Barry? No, it's Lazio. Why am I thinking Barry?
I thought he played for Barry.
Why is Barry? That's what I was thinking. It was Lazio, but why am I thinking Barry? I don't know where that's come from.
I thought you were right.
You were reminiscing about your ex or something, weren't you?
No, I never do that. I try and forget them. Drum them out.
Gareth Barry, you were thinking of.
Oh, yeah. Rafa's trying to sign him.
Yeah,
because Gascoigne was described as George Best without brains. No, what was Barry? What happened to Barry? Something happened with Barry.
It's Barry, actually.
It was just Barry.
I can't remember what that was. I don't know why I'm thinking it.
You two have been taking your elocution lessons again.
So our substitutes.
You've only said that 5 times. Let's do the substitutes now.
I want to get the substitutes in, see.
Yeah, I was trying to think who to include. I'm trying to remember who we've got. Who did we have?
Neville Southall's our backup keeper.
Yeah, we've already chosen him. So we're just going to...
Yeah. Rio Ferdinand as our centre-half.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good pick.
How many subs do we have? How many subs are we getting? 5?
We're getting 5. We're getting 5.
All right, mate. Yeah, all right, Billy. Billy's all dominant there. Did you see that?
Yeah,
I know. He's the boss.
I've got to put my foot down somewhere.
He never gets to do this normally at home.
So I don't know.
Tristan's neck.
Normally he just gets told what to do. This is his one break from doing the decorating.
Yeah.
Oh, be all manly and stuff, Billy. Go on.
He's done it. He's worn out now.
He's not used to it. He doesn't know what to say.
That's it. He's gone. So we've got Letizia anyway, and Ferdinand, and Rio Ferdinand, and Neville Southall.
Neville Southall. Yeah.
So.
Nickel on the bench.
I thought Nickel was who's at right back then? I've forgotten.
Oh, it was Nickel at right back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We need someone who can cover in midfield anyway for next.
Jimmy Milner.
Oh,
So he's a bit like Steve Nicol, but less Scottish and doesn't drink.
not as good.
I'm a big fan of him, to be honest with you. James Milner. But there's got to be some we've forgotten, obviously.
How? No, Billy, we don't forget. We're conscientious.
Right.
Never forget anything.
And it's not like we only put this list together in 2 seconds just before while I'm waiting for you two to log in or anything.
Billy, we're journalists, don't you know?
Class.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Sorry, I forgot about.
well, you are, but I don't know about the rest of it.
We're modern podcasters. We've revolutionised journalism.
I'd say my trade license says I'm a journalist, but even that doesn't say that.
Let's see, up front.
Well, we can have Rush on the bench. We can have Rush on the bench.
Yeah, that's true. But what about Letitia? Letitia could cover midfield and wide areas and an extra forward. And John Charles could cover the defence then if need. Couldn't you? You could drop him back.
Yeah, I could have John Charles.
Yeah, because he could play either role. I don't know. It's so... I mean, picking 5 to go on the bench is difficult. Come on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is very difficult.
I think that's even worse than picking a team. Because you're so limited.
That's true.
Yeah.
And basically, you just want 5 utility players then. Well, 4 and a keeper.
Yeah. We can have that.
So it's it's Milner and 3 others. Milner, Southall and 3 others then, isn't it?
Yeah. A big fan of James Milner. No, I'm a big fan of James Milner. What a good professional he's been.
And his social media is weird looking at as well.
All right,
You're not seen. Oh, he's hilarious, Bill. You've got to see it.
Billy doesn't know what social media is.
Yeah,
You've got to
that's
explain
true.
social media to Billy.
You're better off not knowing, mate. But if you do ever check it out, it's weird looking at James Milner. Somebody, because they call him boring, he decided to play up to it. He's fantastic. He's been measuring the grass and cutting it individually with scissors out on the lawn. And rationing the tea bags and things like that. Like,
for me is wherever he's been, he's been a really good professional, hasn't he? You never see him moaning about not being in the side or being left out, or any. He's just there every week, isn't he? He turns up every week and does it.
That has to be Brendan Rodgers' best signing.
Yeah.
Even if we didn't have a clue how to use him.
Yeah. He'll make a fantastic manager.
I think he will, yeah.
Because he's got the nous,
And he's highly respected as well, I think, with his peers.
Yeah.
And he's a good example as well. Unlike someone like Jonathan Woodgate, or who's the other one that went into management, and I just thought, what the hell? Would it be Kevin Nolan just gone in as number 2 at West Ham, and you're thinking, the guy's a drunk. He was 5 stone overweight in his playing days, hated by the fans at Bolton and West Ham because he was so fat and lazy. And he's brought him back as an assistant manager at David Boyce. So you're thinking, why would you want him? He's the last person you'd want teaching your players. He'll have them down the pub doing drinking games till all hours.
What a nice fella, though.
Who, Kevin Nolan?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But he's
him and Andy Carroll used to come in our local in Allen. And they knew the manager of one of the bars there called Nez. And they used to come in every week. And there was a crowd with them all the time, but really nice guy and talked to everyone.
Did they go? Is your local his parents' pub then? Because his parents own one of the. I can't remember where.
Yeah, they've got a pub. I can't think what.
Because that's where they used to go, and they'd get bladdered, but they'd have a game the next day.
But they used to be in the Mez on Allen, called the Mez, and they were really nice people. Even Andy Carroll was was a good guy, you know what I mean?
Well,
they used to drink together. They were buddies.
It depends on who you ask about whether he's a nice guy, mind. I'm sure his ex wouldn't have agreed with you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
because that's why he ended up living with Kevin Nolan. Remember, because he beat him.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, everyone says he's a nice guy, but not very professional, is he?
No.
Well, we can't have. Everybody can't be James Milner, let's face it.
No, but if you're looking at who you want to bring in to be a coach on your coaching staff, you don't want a Kevin Nolan or an Andy Carroll when you want a James Milner, don't you?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. But look at the Premiership. I mean, or look at any life, right? Not even at playing at echelon, like in the second, third division, you just get so much attention and notoriety, and it's not to succumb to temptation. And it's difficult. I mean, you're going to make wrong decisions and bad decisions that you probably don't feel at the time. But
I make that every time I read one of your texts. I make a bad decision to have a look at it, so I know exactly what you mean. I always think I'm never reading another one of his bloody texts again, and every time I just think, well, I'll just have a look and see what it says.
But yeah, I mean, I think Milner will make a great coach, and I mean, I'm not sure Andy Carroll going to coaching, but
who's going to listen to him? I'm not being funny, but if you're a player, who's going to listen to him?
Yeah, you can hold going off to the toilet after 7 pints, but once you're after 7, you're going to burst that seal, and then you're going to go, and that's his advice to players.
Yeah, and be careful if you go in the casino. Don't sit on the bar stools.
Yeah. I thought he could. I really had high hopes for that fella, and I didn't know anything about his background or anything. But just as a player, I thought Kenny's come up with it could be a revelation.
To be fair, that wasn't really a Kenny Dalglish decision. He told them what type of player he wanted, and they went all over Europe. It wasn't him. That was the stats guys. You know what I mean? It was what's his face? What's his name?
Edwards. David Comely, yeah.
Yeah, went all over Europe and approached loads of players, Olatoven and who else? Loads of them anyway. About 20 different forwards, and we couldn't get any of them. And Andy Carroll it was just like, well, we'll have to be him then. It wasn't like we went, it wasn't like he was even in the first 20 choices. He was like right down the list of, oh, Christ, what do we do now? Because Torres was going, remember?
But they knew Torres was going for a while, right?
Yeah,
so
we'd
Chelsea
been all over Europe trying to buy striker. Nobody would join. So that was where the problem was. Nobody wanted to join us at that time. We didn't have the kind of money. You know what I mean? We were basically relying on the Torres sale, and that's why the Torres sale had to be cash there and then, so we could pay it straight to Newcastle, because that was the only way they'd do a deal for Carroll. And Carroll didn't want to go. Carroll was desperate to want to stay. He didn't want to go. And they told him, no, we want the money more than you. So bugger off, basically. Yeah. He was thrown out the door.
Well, it didn't work out for Torres either. So we were both, we made 15. And, they had a good, I think the only people didn't have a good deal out of that was Chelsea.
Well, I'm not sure we did a good deal out of that, because we got, well, I suppose if you count, no, because
Torres was in his decline.
Yeah,
Torres was declining when he went to Chelsea.
Yeah, I know, but I'd still rather have had him than Carroll.
Yeah, but if you look,
at least Torres would have actually played. The problem with Torres was more that him and Gerrard and Carragher were the problem, because they didn't agree with the way. Torres' lifestyle was family first, and Gerrard and Carragher wanted everyone to be out on the lash with the lads all the time, doing team bonding.
Yeah. But that being said, Torres physically declined at that juncture in life. At that time in life, his body went. So it was a decent deal for us.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't, but I'm just saying the reason why we had a few problems with him in the later years and why he was desperate to go was purely down to too much player power.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Gotcha. He wanted to have a family-orientated lifestyle, and everybody else wanted to be on the lash. And he thought going to Chelsea he'd have more autonomy over life. Whatever.
Well, it was just Gerrard and Carragher ran the club. That's the problem. And Torres wasn't happy with being run by them. He wanted to be himself. Spanish have a different way of life. They don't do the going out on the lash. They just don't do it.
Yeah. So. I get that, but to be fair, Carragher and Gerrard's performance on the pitch didn't reflect that kind of social life. So I'm good with that. If they want to go out,
I'm not. Because how do you know they wouldn't have been a lot better if they hadn't been drinking so heavily, hadn't been out living the life? If they'd have been professional, like say James Milner, could you imagine how good they could have been?
But I thought putting in good.
Yeah, but they were. But you look at Carragher, constant problem with cramp. That's because he wasn't fit enough because of the drinking. That's what causes that. That's dehydration causes cramp, and he had cramp all the time. He was, he struggled with that quite a lot at the end of games, especially hard games.
Yeah.
The European Cup final.
Yeah, and if he hadn't been drinking so much, maybe he'd have spent a bit more time on the weights, and he wouldn't have got bullied by Didier Drogba every time we faced them. Because that was embarrassing. Drogba made him look a tool every time, just absolutely destroyed him.
Great player, Drogba, though, wasn't he?
Oh, fabulous. But, nobody ever made him, nobody ever struggled against him quite as much as Carragher did. It was really embarrassing, I thought, watching him try and deal with Drogba.
I remember Thierry Henry, and he gave him 10 yards over 12 and beat him by Carragher. When Thierry Henry ripped him, that was a good moment.
He was incredible. He was incredible, Henry.
Yeah. Fantastic player.
They reckon that Arsenal got him for cheaper than they did when he left Juventus, but Juventus want to lose face over the transfer. Told everybody it was higher than it was.
That happens quite a lot where the transfer fees that are released, they're not actually the actual figures. They just they'll release it with all the add-ons and all that, the side that's selling, and the side that's buying will say just the basic fee, you know what I mean? And that's
yeah.
It's common practice.
Can I tell you the story? Right. This is a true story. We were talking about Peter Ridsdale before.
Is it a bedtime story?
No, it's not a bedtime story, and it's not a joke.
Right.
I used to go and watch, a mate of mine used to play for Steve Whitehall, his name is. He used to play for Mansfield. So when we had a bank holiday, we used to go and watch him. And he had a mate there called John Doolan. I don't know if you remember John.
John Doolan?
John Doolan, yeah. He played for Mansfield.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't he manage them? Is that the one?
Yeah. And he gave us a lift home in his car, and he was telling us he was the best man of a fella called Seth Johnson. Do you remember Seth Johnson?
I remember Seth Johnson very well. I knew him. I used to go out drinking with that lot of crew, lads.
Right, and he was telling us he was better, and he was telling us that when Leeds signed him, he went up with his agent, and he was meeting Peter Ridsdale, and his agent said to him, "We're going to ask for 15,000 a week. We're not going to accept anything less than 15." So he said, "So don't agree to any terms that are not £15,000 a week at the time." And he went into his office, and Peter Ridsdale said, "I'm only going to make you one off £40,000 a week." He said he couldn't believe his. Yeah. Peter Ridsdale offered him 40,000 and he 15. his agent said.
Yeah, I know that one.
That's what sort of person Peter Risdale was. He was just a menace with money.
He's like Rick Parry. He's one of those terrible men, terrible overseers. Yeah, get him football. Just haven't got a clue.
What's he doing now, Ridsdale?
I don't know. I don't know what happened to him after Bradford.
He was on telly the other day speaking about the football, the coronavirus in football. I don't know what it was about.
Why would they get him on? I mean, why would you ask him anything? I mean, he's just like... It's like...
It was about the finances, how football's going. The finances for this.
How the bloody hell would he know? He hasn't got a freaking clue. It's like Rick Parry. I mean, how the hell did he end up becoming the head of the Football League?
Absolutely.
How the hell? And he's giving it all, saying the the English Football League shouldn't look to the Premier League for a handout. They should sort it out themselves. And I'm thinking, how the bloody hell would you know how to cope with finances?
I think he's something to do with Sheffield Wednesday, no?
Who? Parry? Oh, Ridgedale.
No, Ridgedale.
Okay, that'd explain why they're such a mess then.
Yeah.
What's happened to David O'Leary? Why has he not got a job in football?
Because nobody had given him a job after he ended up going out in the golf and that. He was out here for a while.
Took Leeds to the quarterfinals of the European Cup.
Yeah, but he was a complete arsehole and he was full of himself. He makes Brendan Rodgers seem like a withdrawn sort of guy who doesn't think much of himself.
They're a very good side, though, to watch.
Yeah, for a short period, but I'm not.
Lucas Radaby and all them,
Then he got carried away and he just kept buying and buying and buying and buying.
What happened? They got ideas of grandiose and they just started having a drink rather than concentrating on their football because they thought they'd won the league. I mean, January.
Yeah, but that's the manager's job to sort. He gave them no discipline. And that's the problem. He's like Pochettino. Yeah. The team had no discipline, and so when things happened. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then he wrote that book, and you're just thinking, why would you even do that? While you're still manager of the club, why would you write anything about what's happening? Don't do it now. Right. Wait until you retire. Right. And then to claim he didn't know it was going to be called Leeds United on trial, I'm sorry, mate, but you would have known. Yeah. And you would have had to say whether to release it or not. You would have had to say because it's your book.
Yeah.
You could have turned around and said, no, I can't agree to that. There's no way.
Yeah. Very naive.
Was that during the Boyer and Woodgate incident?
That was about it was afterwards.
Woodgate, yeah.
Right. As soon as that finished, and he said there's only one chapter about it when there was 3 and things like that. The guy's just no, he's not a nice guy at all. Pretends to be. He's one of those you can't trust, you know.
He was very dour, wasn't he? He wasn't very charismatic.
He was lucky because they wanted. Well, I mean.
They wanted Carlo Ancelotti.
No, they wanted Martin O'Neill was the man they wanted, and Martin O'Neill turned him down. Okay. That was in his Leicester time.
Gotcha. All right, guys. I think this podcast is 44 we've missed.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
We've got a bit carried away here. I've just seen the time. There was a couple of bits. Don't let me forget. I've got to edit it later before I send it out because there's a couple of bits where my internet went off and I hadn't noticed, and I was just like, "Oh, have you gone?" And then my internet comes back on, and you snap back in like in the middle of a conversation, like, "Oh." So I've got to remember to go back and edit them bits because if I forget, that's gonna be maybe I'll just leave them.
Well, you've got plenty of time now. You can find some.
But this is me, and I'll say I'm going to edit that out. But by the time I've converted the full whatever it is into the right thing, I don't know, converted this.
Very technical. There.
I don't know. I haven't got a bloody clue. The thing is, I don't even know how to do the edit. It takes me hours. Honestly. It takes me hours to do one piece, one bit cut and paste in, like, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm terrible at it.
Clearly got the job at Google then.
Yeah, I'm very technical.
Right, boys, it's been a blast.
It's been a
thanks for being so professional, Bill, and having your preparation.
Yeah, I don't know. I can wing anything.
Okay, so
It's brilliant.
are we doing a world next week? Are we doing a World 11 or a Premiership 11?
Next,
Yeah, Premiership one.
yeah, we got to do a Premier League one, haven't we? Next time, that way all your research won't have gone to waste.
No. I'm start making notes tonight.
You can use there's a thing called the internet you can use as a study tool.
I'm usually on the better sites.
Yeah, he won't be able to get off Coral to do that. And if he does, his missus will have him painting the stairs or something anyway.
Absolutely.
Billy, some of your mates in the bookies might have discovered the internet, so
Mates,
ask them.
he's got no mates.
You know, mates?
That's why he's Billy. His parents knew what he was going to be like. That's why they called him Billy. Either that or that's where it comes from.
Oh, shut up, Tristan, and go home.
I have
I'll catch you next week, boys. Good night to you both. Good night to you both.
Right, I'll stop it there then. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Ta-ra, Tris.
Love you.
Next time, boys. Cheers.
See you, mate. Cheers, Billy. See ya.